I'll make this quick, I think. I'm borrowing this watch from a collector. I didn't intend to make a video about it, but this thing is so beautiful, I just have to share. This is the Grand Seiko Blue Snowflake SBGA407. The Blue Snowflake came out in 2019 and uses a mix of elements seen in other popular Grand Seiko watches, two of which I've owned. The 40mm case is the same elegant one used in the GMT SBGM221. It's 12.8mm thick and has a classically shaped box crystal. The case is fully polished and curvaceous. Just like on the GMT, the drilled lugs have these lovely bevels along their outer edges, and the lug spacing is 19mm. I'm sure there's a very good reason for this, and it has something to do with Japanese artistry and the search for perfect proportions, but come on, Grand Seiko. Maybe a little more function over form next time. The Blue Snowflake comes on a blue leather strap that looks like this, but this ain't it. The owner swapped them out because he didn't like the Grand Seiko deployant clasp, and I'm with him on that. I also put the watch on this brown leather strap from Perpetual Watch Lover, and I think it's a good combo. The dial is the other element taken from a popular watch, probably the most popular Grand Seiko, the Snowflake. The SBGA407 Snowflake gets its nickname in part from the dial texture. It's reminiscent of windswept snow on a mountain, and it's really something to see up close. Here we have that same texture but in a sky blue color, hence the name Blue Snowflake. To me, this blue snow dial is even more beautiful than the original white snowflake dial. The darker dial also provides more contrast with the hands. But that's not all that's similar between the two snowflake watches. The movement is also the same, the spring drive caliber 9R65. The spring drive movement is a technology that's unique to the Seiko family of watches. You can find it in some higher end Seiko watches, some Crador watches, but mostly in Grand Seiko watches. The spring drive winds and stores energy like a traditional watch movement, but the way it releases energy and regulates that energy is different. It uses a quartz crystal to regulate time and an electronic brake to control the release of energy. Because of this, there's a smooth and constant release of energy, no ticking. The sweep of the seconds hand in a spring drive watch is perfectly smooth. Spring drive movements are also very efficient and accurate. They tend to deviate less than 1 second per day and have about 72 hours of power when fully wound. And like with many Grand Seiko spring drive watches, you can see how much power is left by looking at the power reserve indicator on the dial. I know that some collectors feel this indicator ruins the dial's symmetry, and they're right, but to me it's worth it. I see the power reserve indicator as another place where Grand Seiko can show off its finishing skills. Of course, the details and fine finishing are all over this watch. The markers are mirror polished and minutely beveled, so are the blade-like hands. Rather than being folded or curved down at their edges, these hands look like hunks of steel that have been formed by a swordsmith. The watch feels great on my 7-inch wrist. I could see an argument for a smaller case, but if the watch is going to be 12.8mm thick, I don't think it should be much smaller than 40mm, and I'm guessing that that thickness is necessary for the movement. This is really a pleasure to look at. I learned that this style of Grand Seiko isn't for me right now, it's just too dressy maybe. But that doesn't mean I don't love it. It took me a while to learn, but there's a difference between a watch that you love and a watch you should own. You should love every watch you own, but you definitely shouldn't own every watch you love. The Blue Snowflake has a price tag of $5,800 US. I used to think that Grand Seiko was crazy to ask for prices like this, but I don't anymore. In the last few years, I've owned, borrowed, and reviewed a lot of watches. A lot of watches. And I totally think $5,800 makes sense. Grand Seiko is offering something special here that few brands and maybe no other brands offer for under $6,000. Outstanding details and finishing, a truly unique and accurate movement, legacy, history, some serious watch collector cred, and a stone cold gorgeous watch.